By the time you finish watching this entire video guide, you'll understand how to find all of your ideal prospects and their email information, how you can then put them into a cold outreach campaign that actually works to generate calls, and then how to make sure that your email deliverability is strong so your emails always end up in the inbox of your recipient, and finally, how this can all be automated. Most of the things you've seen online about cold email don't really work. Most of them are just telling you to spam and send out a high volume of annoying messages to prospects who don't want to be cold pitched. But the specific email strategy that I'm sharing with you today will generate you 10 to 20 calls per week if you do it the right way. All right, so let me first go through what the system looks like at a high level. And to do that, I'll first break down what it is that most people do today and why it does not work. So what you're actually going to see the vast majority of people doing today, and maybe even you've tried this in the past, is that you'll just get this massive list of email prospects and you'll just blast them, maybe 1,000 a week, maybe several thousand per month. And you're hoping that because you're sending out so much volume that some people will essentially say yes to you asking for a call. So for example here, Matt just says, hey, I can generate you a bunch of sales appointments. Would you like to learn more? Would you like to jump on a call? Another example would be this email that I got from some financial advisor giving me this like massive essay and just, once again asking for a call. Now neither of these are great. This one is way too long and pitchy and frankly it's totally irrelevant to me, so I'm not going to even finish reading it. But the other one just makes this huge claim saying that they're going to be able to generate me a bunch of calls but provides me essentially no evidence and just says, hey, jump on a call with me. Why would I trust either of these people? People are getting pitched like this by thousands of strangers every single year. And at this point, most of us are blind to these messages. We don't even read them anymore, let alone book a meeting or buy. Think about the last time you actually purchased from someone doing this to you, right? It's pretty rare. So if it doesn't work on us, why would we expect that it works for our own campaigns? So if just sending out a ton of volume and just asking for calls doesn't really work, then what should you be doing instead? Well, here's the system that you really should be deploying. First and foremost, you want to be hyper-targeted with your outreach. Don't just randomly message anyone with a pulse. Find the people that actually fits your specific demographic. If you're going after only C-level people who run companies between 50 to 150 employees in a specific industry, who's raised funding, then build a list just about that and go hyper-targeted towards them, which allows your messaging to be a bit more specific. And then instead of just asking for a sales call straight up without proving any sort of value, give value first. Show them that you're an actual expert. Show them that you're credible and prove to them that you are someone that can actually transform their life or transform their business. This is actually the hidden piece that the vast majority of people do not do, and this is arguably the most important thing that you have to deploy in your campaigns. People will always buy from those who they have the highest level of confidence will actually add value in the future. But what's the best way that you can get people to think that you'll be able to add value in the future? It's by adding value now, in the present, before they've even actually given you a dollar. So how can you do that? There's a couple different ways. The first way is that you can actually just deliver them valuable content. And this can come in the form of tutorials or in-depth guides or breakdowns of exactly how you've already done something that they're trying to do today. So this is oftentimes what I'll do, right? In my emails, we'll share free content. We'll say, hey, would you like us to send you this free video guide or this free course or this free access to this thing that'll be valuable, rather than just saying, hey, would you like to jump on a call? And that's essentially what I do in my YouTube channel and all the free content that I provide. They're in depth. There's no fluff. It's not just going through platitudes. I'm literally just screen sharing tutorials and going behind the scenes into exactly how I do certain things, and they can just follow along. I'm not afraid of just giving away things for free that others might actually be charging money for. In fact, I want my prospects to see my content and think to themselves like, wow, why is he not charging for this? And yes, you might have a fear of, well, if I give away everything for free, why would they actually want to jump on a call with me? Or why would they buy my services or work directly with my business? But the reality is, content is imperfect. Even if you have great content, content needs to be done on a somewhat general level because you're talking to potentially thousands of people. Whereas an individual's specific situation is always going to be unique to them. Working with you means that they can have a much more tailored approach. As well, the reality is content doesn't actually do the work for the prospect. even if they were to watch a video or see something that you were to give them, they still need to do it on their own. And them doing it on their own when they've never done it before always leads to trial and error and mistakes and maybe 6 months of experimentation, which not necessarily everyone wants to do. Don't be afraid. Even if you were to give a lot of free value, there's still a ton of people who would rather just work with someone and get the massive shortcut to the results that they're actually looking for. And you know what? For those people who are just looking for free stuff and they have no intention of ever working with you, the reality is they would have never worked with you regardless, whether you gave them free content or not. But at least if you were to add value to them, you'll earn some goodwill and maybe they'll share you with their friends' network, and that way your reputation still grows, which is valuable at the end of the day. This is really great because it allows us to open the conversation. If they say yes, then we can send the thing to them, and obviously that thing might be what gets them to convert. Or even if they don't necessarily convert on the asset itself that we send them, if they even just say yes, we could send them the guide, and then we can now start a bit of a dialogue saying, hey, why is it that you actually wanted this? Is it that you're actually struggling with this particular topic? And now that you have a bit of a dialogue and a back and forth, you can start to do a bit more probing, ask them what their issues are, and then you can push them into a call from that way. Now, there are other ways to provide free value upfront. For example, this is actually an email that I got from a video editor that I work with. And instead of him giving me free value in the form of videos or free guides, he actually just spent the time looking at my YouTube videos and literally giving me a fully personalized report on what he thought I could have done better. And then he even at the end offered me a free video that he would create. And this is actually really good, right? It essentially checks off all the boxes that I'm looking for, where he's showing that he's actually good at what he does. And then he's even willing to give me a little bit of free value up front before I actually spend any money to really validate that he is good at what he does. But the issue that I have with this strategy is just that it's not very scalable, right? If he wants to be doing this at a higher volume, it'll be really difficult because there's so much work that goes into writing up these custom reports or creating an actual free video. That would get expensive. So definitely content is a much more scalable way of doing this. And from there, you're going to be able to book a call at a significantly higher conversion rate than if you were to just do this, which once again is just spam pitching people annoying stuff and asking them for calls, even though you definitely don't deserve it. So now that you have this high level, let's actually break down a bit more into depth how you can do all of these steps. From the copywriting of the email campaigns, to the softwares that we're going to be using, to the list building and even optimizing for deliverability of your campaign. All right, so you can see my screen right now, and I actually just want to share with you first off the tool that I use that makes my life a million times easier to run email campaigns, and it's called Reply.io. You can actually sign up for a free trial using a link that I provided in the description box below. The purpose of it is to allow you to essentially automate out your sending of emails so that you can cover significantly more ground. As you can see, I've built a bunch of campaigns here. I have a pretty solid track record in terms of creating good campaigns. You can see all my open rates for all the campaigns that I've ran are 50, 60, 70%. Some of my reply rates are 5 to 10%, which is pretty impressive given that most people running email outreach campaigns are lucky to even get 2 to 3% these days. That being said, I actually want to share with you the copy that I use because it's really important that you understand the strategy behind how to create an email campaign that generates results. Because most people do not do cold email in a way that gets results. And you probably have seen this for yourself because people have prospected you, sending you really annoying outreach. Here's an example where there's clearly no research. He's just asking me for a call, even though there's like really no sense of relevancy to me. Like I don't really require any development at all. So they're just blasting probably 1,000 emails a week or 1,000 emails a month. And it's a pure numbers game. And they probably have under a 1% reply rate, which frankly isn't the way that I think you should be doing outreach. So if that's not the way to do outreach, how should you do it? Let me show you. All right, so I'm just gonna open up the sequence that I've built and show you the copy for the first email that I'm launching. So here is the basic gist of it. I'm not gonna read the entire thing out for you, but I'm gonna say, hey, I know that you're probably tired of people just spamming your inbox and making massive claims that they have no evidence about. I'm not gonna do that. I actually just wanna give you something for free. I made a free video course that specifically helps people like you overcome a specific issue. If you want it, just let me know, reply yes, and I'll send it over for free, no strings attached. So you get the idea, right? I've talked about in other videos and earlier in the course where sending out a lead magnet and providing free content is really valuable. And if you just straight up ask for a sales call without doing any research or having zero pre-built relationship with that person, they're never going to respond. However, if you're instead saying, hey, I have this thing that I know can help you, it's much, much easier for them to respond. And they'll say yes, then you can just send it over, but start asking questions. All right, like, why did you want this asset? What is it that you're trying to overcome right now? What are your problems? And maybe from that back and forth dialogue that you've now earned, you'll be able to book the call. But even if they don't respond to any attempts for dialogue, if they do in fact watch and consume the free asset that you have, and you've actually spent the time to make it good, then you're gonna have a much, much higher likelihood of them ultimately booking a call with you. And by the way, something else which is a real benefit to using this strategy is if you have a lot of people replying, it actually makes your email domain health stronger. And this is something that oftentimes happens to people that are doing a lot of cold email. Over time, Google will start going to recognize them as spam because they're just blasting out so much volume, so many emails, and no one ever replies that, down the line, they're going to start thinking that you are in fact just a spammer. Whereas for us, because we are getting a higher percentage of people actually replying, we feel from Google's eyes that we're significantly more legitimate, and that keeps our domain healthier for a longer time. Now, later in this section, I'll also go through a bit more about how to keep your email deliverability strong. Now, if you move into step 2, the rest of this cadence is me just trying to bump up the initial message. Hey, should I send over that free video course? Should I send over that free lead magnet? Whatever it is that you want to provide, just reply yes, send it over. Now, the third step is actually me just giving them the link to the asset, because if they haven't opted in, if they haven't replied yes, I still want them to get it. So I'll just give it to them. And here's me essentially building an argument as to what it is that they'll learn and see value out of it. And essentially in the body of the email, I'll just try to provide them a bit of context as to why they should consume it. Because listen, even if they don't respond, even if all they did was go through the free content, I know that content is impactful enough that in and of itself, it's going to be helpful for me to grow my reputation, build my brand, add value, and hopefully get them to trust me more. And then the final step is me just giving like a Hail Mary pitch. Hey, I've sent you all this content. Do you want to book a call? Because at this point, I'm going to kill the campaign anyways. It's going to end on the 4th step, so I might as well give it a shot. So clearly, my campaign is really built around this idea of offering value and providing some sort of lead magnet or free course that will get people to indoctrinate themselves into your methodology and believe that you're an expert. Now, how do you launch this campaign? Well, you can obviously upload from a CSV all the emails that you have and just click launch. Over the course of time, people will start replying back to you. And the nice thing about reply is that you can actually have all of the conversations in the inbox here, and you can manage it all in one go. And if you want, you can even attach multiple email inboxes to your reply account so that you can have more sending. Now, I spoke a bit earlier about deliverability, and deliverability is really important because you want to make sure that a really high percentage of your emails are actually going to the inbox of your clients. Because if they go to the spam section or if they go to the social section, usually people won't even see it. And like I showed you before here, it's really important that you do have a high open rate because it doesn't matter how good your email is if no one even sees it. So the question is, how do you actually make sure that your email deliverability is solid? So there's a couple methods, all right? So where you can go with settings and then email accounts, and then you can click into the email accounts, and then you can actually set up the safety settings, which will essentially be limits on how many emails you're sending per day. And really, you don't want to be going overboard. I would actually say that if you have a relatively new account, you don't even want to go over 20 emails per day. In the same way, you want to set up some rules in terms of how many emails per minute that you'd send. I probably wouldn't send out more than 1 email per minute. Another thing that you're going to want to do is warm up your email account if it's relatively new, because Google will actually look at an older account that has a lot of activity and history on it as being more reputable than a brand new account. So if you're making a brand new account to run your emails out of, then you're going to want to make sure that it's warmed up. And warming it up essentially means that you just have a bunch of emails going in and out of it. Now, the easiest thing that you can do is just connect and integrate your email account to a tool such as Lemworm, and Lemworm will automatically just send emails to and from your new account so that it starts having a little bit of history and activity, and it looks good. The other thing that I like about Lemworm is that as soon as you plug it in, you can actually do a quick check to see if there's anything wrong with your domain. So you're going to want to have all of these green check marks essentially. And oftentimes when you're setting up a brand new email domain or a brand new email account, some of these might be yellow or orange because you're missing them. For example, SPF, DKIM, DMARC. Sometimes these will be incorrect on a new email account. So if you have this problem, then you're going to have some pretty poor deliverability. Now, this gets a little bit technical in order to fix. Like personally, I don't even know how to fix some of these technical SPKF DMARC issues. So I actually just pay someone to do it for me. So normally I would just go on Fiverr and find someone for a relatively small amount of money. And they can normally just go and log into your domain hosting, and they can just set all that type of stuff up for you, okay? I will say it would be advisable for you to not use your main email domain as you're sending. Because let's say you actually have an email domain that you've been using for a while, and it's where your website is hosted, and it's the real email that you're using day to day. You don't want to be doing your outreach out of that email, because if you mess up that domain due to breaking outreach rules, then you've essentially messed up your good domain, which you kind of need to have good. So for me, whenever I'm doing outreach, I'm using like other variations of my domain. So my main website is attractandscale.com. So I don't use that for outreach. I use attractandscale.io, I use attractandscale.biz, I use attractandscale.co. So get those domains, set up the DKIM, SPF, DMARC, set up the emails, and then if you need to have a higher volume of emails, then just set up multiple domains and have multiple emails per domain, right? So that is essentially the way that I deploy email. Alrighty, so you are able to see my screen right now. I'll be sharing with you not one, but two unique methods for you to actually generate all the emails that you need to build out your perfect lead lists. The first method is going to be a lot more time consuming and manual, but it will be much cheaper. And the second method will be a lot more time efficient, but it will be significantly more expensive. So it's ultimately up to you which one you prefer. I actually use the first method because even though it can be manual, I have a virtual assistant that can actually just do it for me. So in that case, I get the best of both worlds. I get to save money, and I don't have to do any of the work myself because I've delegated all the annoyingness to my VA. So that's another option you can choose to use, having someone else just do the work. And by the way, a virtual assistant costs like between $4 to $7 an hour. So that's not necessarily a bad investment if you're hoping to offload some of your data admin. But with that being said, today I'm not going to be talking about a VA very much. So just take it as is. I'll be going through both processes right now, and both of them will be able to get you really, really high quality emails. So you're not going to really see much of a difference in terms of the quality of the contact information, all right? So the first method is going to involve Sales Navigator, which is the premium version of LinkedIn. This will cost you some money. It costs around $70 a month. And then it'll also require you Dripify, which is the other tool that this method one is going to require. Also, it's going to be between $70 to $100 a month. And I know you're thinking, hey, that's already like almost $200 a month. Believe me, that's not going to be very much money at all relative to the value that you'd be able to get by having thousands and thousands of emails to be able to reach out to, right? Obviously, if you can close even a handful of deals, that pays for itself like 100x. And certainly, this is still a bit of a cheaper method than the second option, which I'll be getting to at the later part of this section. That being said, Sales Navigator, premium version of LinkedIn, what it allows you to do is essentially build out these very specific and targeted lists based on the LinkedIn internal database. And this is really cool. You can filter by geography, by industry, by headcount in their employees, how long they've been around. Generally speaking, you're going to want to keep your overall search results under 3K because with the other tools that we're going to need to enrich and extract all the contact information, there's like a limit to how many people you can upload. So 4,000 would actually be too big of a list. So in the situation that you have a list which is too big, you're going to want to add additional filters to try to slim it down. Easy things that you can do is, for example, you could get rid of certain states, and that'll slim down the total audience. So you can do exclude functions. So there's a lot of different things. Just play around with it, and you'll be able to find out for yourself what is possible, okay? And then once you do that, you're going to want to save search. I'm not going to save it because I've already saved this search before, and the naming convention is pretty important just for like future organization. Just name it, the collection of the filters that you've used as easy reference, okay? So if you do have a lot of saved searches, by the way, best you just like keep them all in a spreadsheet somewhere so that you can access them later. I just find that the organization is pretty helpful. So once you have the Sales Navigator list, what do you do with it? Well, what you would do is you would upload them into Dripify. And this is actually a new way to enrich emails using Sales Navigator that I've only recently discovered. I actually have another video, I think, that I created maybe 6 months ago about enriching emails with LinkedIn. And I actually think that this method is better than the previous method, which used another set of tools, because this method actually has a higher percentage of successful enrichments. For example, like out of 100 leads inside Sales Navigator, the other approach that I talked about half a year ago was only able to maybe get like 40 to 50% enrichment, which means 50% of this list you're not going to ever find the email for. This method that I'm about to share with you gets like 80% enrichment. So you're getting significantly more emails on the same list. So that's why I like this particular method more. So Dripify is actually a tool which is more useful normally as a way to automate your LinkedIn outreach. But for this particular strategy that I'm talking about, you don't actually use it at all for messaging. You're strictly using it as a way to scrape leads. So what you're going to want to do is create a campaign which is specifically just to scrape, okay? So you would essentially just click new campaign. You're going to want to first add the leads to this campaign. So just copy and paste the URL of the saved search that you made in the past, copy and paste it, and then put it here, then name it scraping campaign, because that's essentially what we're using this campaign for. We're just using it to scrape. I cannot spell today for some reason. Scraping. Oh my gosh. Scraping. There we go. 4th time is a charm. And then just click max, because by default, it's not going to let you upload all of it. So LinkedIn profiles found 2,475. And once again, the reason why we're not using a bigger list is because Dripify is going to have a limit to how many you can take. So if you can keep it under 3,000 or 2,500, that'd be ideal. So you would click create list. I'm not going to do it because I've already made the same list before. So I'm just going to click no here. And I'll show you what's going to actually look like once everything's been uploaded. Now you can see here, I've already uploaded the list. Views in the scraping campaign, I've uploaded that exact same list. And then you can see here, there's like almost 2,500 leads in here. Now, one of the things you're going to want to know is that normally Dripify does take a while to even process the uploading of the list. It might even take a full day. So like I said before, this first method does take a little bit more time. So be patient, upload it, and then you might need to wait a day for it to fully populate. I'm not entirely sure why it takes so long, but it does, and it is what it is, okay? So once everything has been successfully uploaded, what you're going to be able to see is essentially this. You're going to see all of these names. It's going to have where they're from. It's going to have some of their emails already pre-found, okay? That being said, some of them are not going to come in already found. You can see here, right? You're going to have to deal with some of them just not having an email, and then some of them you're going to have to actually just click manually to find email. Manually, and some of them they're not going to have an email at all. Some of them will, okay? So you're hoping that more will have emails than not, but you'll just have to deal with whatever the results are, okay? Now, the reason why I said earlier that Dripify will require you to spend a bit of money is because every time you successfully get an email, it does cost a credit, and you have to buy your credit. So out of the gate, the free plan, the free version of Dripify will give you just like 100 credits, but if you're using it to like massively get a bunch of emails, like 5,000, 10,000 emails, then you'll have to pay for it, but it's really not that expensive compared to most other options that I've found. So that's something that you should know. But the other thing that you're going to want to know is the fact that in order to get all these emails, you will have to manually click it one by one, which is kind of annoying. Like you can imagine if there's 25 pages of this and you have to click it one by one in a list of like 2,500 emails, it's a little bit annoying. And this is why I've actually delegated this part of the job to my virtual assistant, who can do it at like $5 an hour. So much, much easier. He just has login access to my entire Dripify profile, and he just does this and he just bangs it out in like half an hour to an hour. The later down like the list goes, the more likely the emails won't be found. That being said, you can see here, the first page here, almost every one of the emails are found. So overall, by the end of the entire like 2,500 list, I'll probably get 60 to 70% of it, maybe more. Now, once you've done this, the next step is you're gonna wanna export it. So you wanna select all 2,474 leads here, click select, and you're gonna export it. Now, I'm not gonna actually do this for you right now because like I don't want to and I don't need to, but you get the idea, export it, and what's gonna come out of it is a CSV, essentially a spreadsheet which will look something like this. It'll look something like this, okay? You'll have first name, you'll have last name, and what we actually need to do right now is we need to fix this spreadsheet because there is something wrong with spreadsheet that makes it impossible for us to be able to upload it into the next step. And what is that next step? The next step is actually using a tool called ClearOut. And essentially what this tool does is it allows us to verify which of the emails that Dripify gave us are actually good emails. Because the problem is some percentage of the emails in this list will be bad. They won't be deliverable. Maybe they've left that job. Maybe the email is no longer active. And what you do not want to do is send out all these emails and then have like a 5 to 10% bounce rate or even worse. Because if you have a high bounce rate, then it's going to be bad. And Google will start flagging your email domain as being like spammers because normal people shouldn't be emailing a bunch of people who have like broken emails. So you're hoping to avoid this. This ClearOut tool essentially will allow you to find of the CSV which ones are actually like good emails. And then once you run it through, it'll filter all the bad ones out and you can just like download the CSV. And that's the one that you'll actually use in your campaigns. But like I said before, the way that this spreadsheet has been formatted from Dripify is like not good for ClearOut. You can't upload this. It'll just give an error message. So I want to share with you right now how you can actually make it usable. So what you want to do is just have a Google Sheet. And then you're going to want to copy and paste this entire sheet that Dripify gave you, and you're going to just want to replace the blank sheet with it. Okay? So imagine there was like a blank sheet here, and I just copy and pasted it over it. So now this is the exact same thing as the CSV before. Now what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to insert a column to the right, and you're going to want to name an email. Okay? You're going to want to name an email, and what you're going to want to do is just copy and paste this feed, this specific snippet. Just copy and paste it. And if you need to look at it, you can look at it, just copy and paste it, okay? And essentially what I have done with this particular formula is I've essentially created a third column which has all the emails. Whereas you can see here, column 1, which is like some of the emails, and column 2 has some of the emails, but there's spaces. What you want to do is essentially combine all the emails into one column so that you have like a master column of all the emails, minimizing all the blank space. So name this email, and then you've actually fixed the sheet. So let me explain to you how this formula works, just in case you can't directly copy and paste it. It's an if-then statement. Essentially, what you want to do is if this column is filled, this column should return whatever is in here. But if this column is empty, then this column should return whatever is in here. And this allows you to essentially have this column have all the emails possible. So the formula essentially is if this exists, then this will be that. And if it doesn't exist, then it'll be that, essentially. So now that you have this, you're going to want to then click File, and then you're going to want to click Export into a CSV, okay? Once you have this as a CSV, and I'm not going to do it once again because I've already done it, but once you have the CSV, then you can upload that same CSV into ClearOut here, Add List, Browse File, Add List, and then it'll essentially allow you to do what it is that I've already shown here. You can click Verify, and then it'll allow you to just download the list. And there you go. You actually have your list that you could now use inside your email campaigns. This takes a little bit of a process, right? You got to wait for Dripify to process all the leads, and then you got to like click a bunch of things or have your VA do it, and then you got to enrich it, and then you got to push into ClearOut. It's a lot of effort. But what you get out of this is a very low cost way of getting all the emails that you need, and they're high quality emails, okay? So what is the easier way, you might be asking? The easier way is essentially an all-in-one tool, and it's going to be significantly more expensive because now you're actually going to be paying like per email, and it'll probably end up being 5 to 10 times more expensive, but you do get to save some time, right? So essentially Apollo IO has like a built-in database, which is kind of similar to Sales Navigator. So for example, you can put in a job title, you can put in a location, you can do all this stuff. And then once you actually have this, you can actually just select everything on the page, and then you can essentially just find the contact. So for example, you can click access email, and you can do this in bulk. You can do this by the thousands if you really wanted to. Obviously, you have to pay a lot of money, but you can do it by the thousands, and then you could just, as soon as you have everything that you need, you can essentially just automatically export to CSV. So you can imagine this is quite a lot faster. You don't need to manually click stuff. You don't need to have a virtual assistant help you out. You can just export the CSV, and then once the CSV has been exported, you can then do the same thing, push it into clear out, because some percentage of these emails are also going to be a bit older, and you'll hopefully return back like 60 to 70% of those emails as usable. And that's it. Much faster, but like I said, much more expensive, because if you were to use Apollo and you want the ability to mass export, I'm pretty sure it's like $5,000 a year or something like that. But now you have two really, really effective ways to get the access to the emails that you need so that you can ultimately hit them up on email campaigns, all right? That wraps up the free course, and I really hope that you enjoyed it. I spent a ton of time on this, and I'm super proud of the work that we've done here. Implement it, use it, because I know if you do, you'll be able to generate lots of value. However, I do want to be real with you for a moment. As good as this content is, there are a few flaws. The first flaw is that I wasn't able to tailor the content to you specifically, because obviously thousands of people are going to be watching my videos, and I got to make sure that it's relevant to everyone. But your business is unique. You have a unique audience. You have a unique offer. So the strategy still needs to be modified for your use. And the second thing is that I just had to leave out some details, because honestly, this free course is already pretty long. So I had to leave out some shortcuts, automations, and best practices. You can absolutely try to execute all of this on your own, despite all of this. And I'm sure you'll be able to get some positive results. But it's also very likely that you will run into some issues, whether it be your copy doesn't work, or you can't figure out the right list to build, or your lead magnet isn't converting as well as you'd like. So on one hand, you could go and try to do all of this on your own, take months or maybe even years to try to solve it, crack the code. But I think the downside with this method is that it will take you a long time. And in that time, you're actually going to be costing yourself a lot of money, not just because of the failed experiments costing money, whether it be on softwares or ads or whatever, but also it's the opportunity cost that you're sacrificing by not getting the results now if you knew what the system actually was. And how stressful would that be if your lead flow issue persists for yet another 6 or 12 months? I really do believe that the better solution is to just work with an expert that already knows exactly how to implement this. And that's what my team and I can do for you, because my team and I can sit down with you and customize a working plan just for you and your specific situation. No cookie cutter templates, and certainly no you needing to do a bunch of trial and error all on your own. We'll work directly with you and your team. We'll figure out the copy, the lead magnets, the entire strategy from a 90-day, 180-day, and even from a full year perspective. And then we'll go as far as to set up your automations and even build out a team for you so that you can make this entire system run on autopilot. Less stress, you save time, you get to your results quicker, which is ultimately what you want to do in business, right? So here are some of the results that we've gotten from the last 4 years of working with our 140 plus customers. Chris Chow, he actually started with us when he was still in the early days. I think he might have only had 2 or 3 customers at this point. And now his online tutoring business does well over 6 figures per month. He has a full sales team, and he's automated his entire lead generation process. Manjeet as well. He has a real estate investment consulting firm. When I first started with him, he was actually still doing all of his business development by just cold DMing random strangers online. And that was okay for an early stage business owner doing around 10K a month, but now he's consistently doing 60K per month and above, and he doesn't need a cold pitch anymore. People actually know who he is because he's become an expert in his space, and he's also delegated his entire lead gen to a sales team once again. And the final example that I'll give is Ria. She actually helps nonprofits fundraise with her consulting firm, but when I first met her, she was just launching a brand new product, and within 30 days of working together, she was able to launch that product, and she was able to cash collect over $90,000 in that single month. Pretty impressive if you ask me. And the biggest change for her was that prior to meeting me, she was just relying on referrals, her network, none of which was really scalable. So once we were able to actually systematize an outreach process with content and a sales team once again, she was able to really scale quickly. These are just some examples, right? We've worked with over 140 plus companies around the world, whether it be in software, coaching, consulting, agencies. The key similarity is that they all want to grow and they want to do so systematically. No more just hoping or praying. And listen, today there's more competition than there has ever been before. Everyone wants to work online. Everyone wants to start their own businesses. And because of that, the stuff that used to work in 2018 don't really work anymore. If you try to do the same cold outreach tactics or the same paid ad strategies that people used to do 4 years ago, that stuff will not generate results. And doing that will just mean that you're gonna lose to your competition. But there's no reason why you have to do that because we've already cracked the code, we've solved it. This isn't something that's new. So just talk to us and we'll give you the blueprint. There's no risk, right? Book a call with us and we'll just talk to you and give you some of our ideas and recommendations. We are not gonna hard sell you. Believe me. In fact, we'll try to make that call as educational as our content is. And that way, no matter what, you'll see value. But obviously, I'm hoping that on the call, you'll realize, wow, working with Lloyd and his team might mean that we'll get to our results in half the time with double the chances of success. And if that's the case, then we'd love to work with you. But hey, if you jump off the call and you think, you know what, I can do this without any help, be my guest. Go for it, right? We just want to be able to add value. So once again, no risk, book a call down below. If you don't think that you're ready for a call yet, then just send me a DM on social media and we can have a bit of a conversation there as well.
Hiring or learning from Lloyd is the best shortcut we could have ever taken to being able to do 30 to 40,000 in organic in a couple of months. We probably could have figured it all out. We're both smart guys, but I learned a long time ago, if you can find a shortcut, it's worth the money. In our experience, it paid itself back in a couple of weeks. The return on investment, it's soon to be close to infinite because it just keeps going. You know, I mean, in the first month, what was our return? Like 5x. So it's not easy, but it is possible and it's simple once you put the disciplines into effect.
And what was attractive to me is this system that you have of being able to expand my network and also being able to like connect with people without being spammy. And I think number one mistake that I made before I met you was like, I was using LinkedIn, but I was coming across as like too salesy and spammy. And so people like weren't taking meetings. And then using some of your techniques, I had an opposite problem, which is like everyone was trying to like book calls with me. When it came time to sell in January, so I opened the cart, so to speak, in January with the goal of having 20 people enrolled by the end of January. I ended up booking like 40-ish calls, I think. And of the 40, I got 15 people signed up at $5,000 each for, it's now an 8-week program. Work with Lloyd. The proof is in the pudding. I signed on, it was a significant investment for me, but I think you have to invest in your business and Lloyd knows his stuff. Your tactics worked, your strategies worked, and I had the best month I ever had.
When you and I met Lloyd a while back, I was at just under 30K a month. And after implementing your appointment center and following your process, we've now exceeded 100K per month. And definitely having the sales operation structure and the processes in place was a key thing that allowed us to get there. We hit those big milestones within about the first 90 days. For anyone listening to this who has done setting yourself, if you're constantly on DMs, posting content, or juggling a team of VAs or one VA, and you have any type of headache of frustration like I did, definitely recommend reaching out to Lloyd. Whether or not you become a private client of Lloyd like I am, at least he'll be able to give you some insight that you probably don't have. And once you kind of break the shackles of being in your business, doing all the work that a setter should be doing instead of the owner, it's so liberating. And yeah, we've been able to like 3x our revenue. And it's been great in terms of my time too, because 3 weeks ago, I have a newborn son now, and there's no way I would be able to be a non-absentee father. I've totally be an absentee father if I was still doing everything I was juggling on my own, right? But now that I have a team, I can actually like feel good about taking a couple hours, doing my family responsibilities, spending time with my family, and have the business still grow, not just like survive, but grow without me actually trying to take over, right? So that's what I would recommend to someone watching this.